So the questions that we need to answer is why deduplicate? Why use deduplication? And the things that we need to look at is the backup deduplication technology is technology that's been around for quite a while, but it's become really into its own play since about 2006. More and more companies have been looking at deduplication since 2006. Deduplication eliminates redundant data. So every time I actually back up a system or back up a database, if the data already exists in my backup storage area, why do I need to have it there again? So if my table of countries has never changed, why would I want to back up my table of countries every day? So deduplication looks at the data that's just come in, says, does it already exist within our backup store? Yes, it does. We don't require this data. The data that is new and unique, it actually stores in there. And so we'll actually find that our backup snapshots are very, very small from backup to backup. It doesn't mean that we don't have a full backup. At any point in time, I can go into the backup software and say, give me the restore at 9:30 a.m. this morning. And it will take all of the files that are required to restore the database to 9:30 a.m. and it will allow me to restore that database as if I had a full backup that was taken at 9:30 a.m. Deduplication has immediate cost benefits. It reduces our storage costs. It reduces our storage requirements. Where before I needed 2 terabytes to store 1 day's worth of image, and we know that as SQL Server DBAs, we like to keep 2 days worth of image, which would take 4 terabytes for a 2 terabyte database. We now find that we actually only require gigabytes. We're down to 250 gigabytes. So for 2 days worth of data, we only need 500 gigs. But with deduplication, the longer that we've been backing up and the longer that we store these files on our hard disk, the smaller the backups become. So instead of it being 500 gigabytes for 2 days, it becomes about 280 gigabytes for 2 days. So the immediate benefit is actually compounded every time we add another day to our backup scenario. So the longer our backups run, the more chance we have of deduplication actually having a significant effect on our storage costs. And I will be presenting with Apesure's benefit a white paper in the coming months talking about this storage cost savings when the backups are being taken over a week, over a month, and for longer periods. Deduplication. So what is deduplication? Deduplication is the process of identifying redundant segments of data. As I said before, what we're trying to do is we're trying to just back up what is unique. We don't require the redundant data, we just require what is unique. And the results that we've found are most beneficial in data copying processes like backup and archiving. So we find that the more data that we back up and the more data that we require to archive, the more beneficial it is when we are actually doing deduplication. So why use deduplication? As DBAs, we want to have as many backups on site as possible. Instead of being able to go back only 2 days, we'd love to be able to go back to the last month. If our boss rings us up and says, I want to examine the data from a month ago, or the auditor rings up and says, I want to look at the data changes between last month's copy of this database and this month's copy of this database, you can actually spin up a virtual server with last month's data actually totally intact. Deduplication saves even further money, or saves more space than compression alone, because with deduplication we're removing the redundant data. We're not looking at doing a full backup every day and compressing it, which gives us a one-time saving of 80%. We're looking at doing a full backup once and then just backing up and removing any of the redundant data every time. It enables us to reduce our off-site storage costs. Most of DBAs are looking at backing up their SQL servers, backing that backup to tape, and then sending that tape off to Iron Mountain or one of those sites. So if I take our 2 terabyte example and I've got a 500 gig tape backup unit, it's going to take 4 tapes. That same 500 gig tape backup unit could now take 2 backups of live replay storage space and actually be able to send them off to Iron Mountain for a quarter of the cost of what it would cost for a normal SQL Server backup. So we're going to reduce our off-site storage costs. We're going to increase our on-site backup recovery points, because all of a sudden we've got recovery points every 15 minutes, but because we've reduced the volume of data required for those recovery points, we can now store a week or a month worth of data for the same storage costs that it cost us before. So by using deduplication and by using compression, we can now store even more data and have more recovery points than we've ever had before on site and available for restoring. So how much storage space will be required when you're doing a backup of a SQL Server database that's 100 gigs? Working on that, you do a daily full backup, you do 3 6-hourly differentials, and you do 15-minute transaction log backups. Well, my testing says that it will take you about 110 gigs of storage space. And the problem is that most databases are no longer 100 gigs. Most databases are growing up into the terabytes. So if I look at a 10 terabyte database, I'm going to need 10 terabytes or 11 terabytes worth of storage space to back up using native SQL Server backup technologies.